Hello my friends, it's the 20th of March 2014, Mr. Max Bliss in the southwest of France. So you can see a plane with a short dissipating contrail, and here you can see a plane with a great big long chemtrail. You can see the sun there, it's being blocked out. Oh, it's not being blocked out, but there's basically your usual cloud generation from the contrails, which is artificial contrail cirrus. You've got these very thick, long, persistent trails that expand out and change the pollution levels in the atmosphere as the air becomes hazy. And basically, we did not see these commonplace on a daily basis only a few years ago. There's a massive change. Now, obviously I'm old enough to know the difference, because I was born at the end of the 60s and I grew up in the 70s, 80s, and I certainly used to look at the skies and look at these pilots and the flight crews, very frequent flyers. You are breathing in air, 50% of which is taken from the atmosphere. So these flight crews, you should be aware, right? Well, I know you're more susceptible to many illnesses. The public might not know that, but I know that because I've got documentation to prove it. You guys are flying through contaminated, concentrated doses of chemtrails. In 2004, the Civil Aviation Authority did an investigation into cabin air quality, and the peak material found was aluminium. Okay, aluminium is believed to be used in the chemtrails. It is also in a power boost fluid used in aviation fuel. Aluminium nanoparticles are extremely toxic. This is why you're getting neurodegenerative problems. That's why pilots are dying from aerotoxic syndrome, which I believe is a cover story for the chemtrail side effects. Now, here's an example of how we can establish how the skies were so different. That's one plane leaving a great big long trail, flying through the trail of another plane there that's in the distance, okay? So sorry that flight crew are breathing this in, and frequent flyers. Here I have a book here I found in 1989. No, from 1989. I found this in a box in the barn. Okay, this book is basically has there you go, 1989. 450 odd pages of images of France. France being a very large country in the centre of Western Europe, and it's got a wonderful culture and history with old, quaint, historical villages. It's actually it's a large country with very fair weather. And it's under some of the busiest air corridors in the world, because basically you've got the UK and Ireland, you've got Scandinavia, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Italy, Austria, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, North Africa, all these different nations flying backwards and forwards over France. So in 1989, wouldn't it be reasonable to see the same types of trails we see today? Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it really? Even though there's an increase in flight traffic today, wouldn't we expect to see the same types of lines in the sky back in 1989? Jets haven't changed that much. And then, of course, there were many constants in the atmosphere. At cruising altitude, the temperature is fairly constant. It's around between -40 and -50 degrees C. The heat, the intense heat from the exhaust is of course a constant. So why are we seeing the changes in the sky? Well, we believe this is a chemtrail program, and this is a program that is a clandestine program involving the intergovernmental agreement to modify the climate using the chemtrails. And basically what we are seeing is a change in the environment that is able to facilitate extreme weather events using HAARP and ionospheric heaters. This was talked about by the EU government in 1999. This isn't speculation. They were concerned about using it for altering the climate. So this is documentation everyone can look up for themselves, open source material. Here, this book, 450 pages, we basically can see no trails in the sky like we see today. Okay? There's a massive difference. This is all part of a program to bring about climate change so that they can force people into accepting the United Nations Agenda 21, which over 190 nations have signed up to. Okay, now the climate modification program has been in existence for a long, long time. They've basically been working at controlling the weather and the climate since the Second World War. And in fact, during the 60s, there are many documents we can find about an agenda to control the climate. And in fact, before the 60s, all the talk was about purposely warming the climate to get to the Arctic region. And there were many different types of suggestions on how to melt the polar ice caps, which involved spraying particles into the atmosphere, and also a series of nuclear detonations. Well, I can assure you, the information is there. 130 plus nuclear detonations have been exploded in the Arctic region. In fact, the world's most powerful nuclear detonation happened in the Arctic region. So it's important to realise many things go on that we are not told about. In fact, in 1961, on the 25th September, JFK addressed the United Nations Assembly and stated that all nations would work together to accurately predict and eventually control the weather. Well, the United Nations Agenda 21 is a program designed to change the way society lives. They are interested in changing the way people live on this planet. The think tank organisation, the Club of Rome, they said that the common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behaviour that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. That's from the Club of Rome. These people want Sustainable Development Agenda 21. They advise policy for governments. This is the real purpose of chemtrails. It's to modify the climate secretly so that they can say that the climate change is a big issue, that it's a problem, that global warming is a threat. Well, you know what? We've been through lots of warmer periods. Through the Roman age, there was a sustained warmer period. We can establish this scientifically through dendrochronology, through ancient trees. We know that the Vikings were growing barley in Greenland. We also know that there are low-lying cities like Tartus on the coast of Syria that has been perpetually inhabited for thousands of years. It's only 20 metres above sea level. It's not been washed away in the warmer periods. We also know that, in fact, if you look at places like the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, sea levels are dropping. These are scientific facts. And in fact, if you start scouring the older newspaper clippings which are now online, you can find that there were heat waves and there were much warmer periods not so long ago. In fact, the 1930s was warmer than any period we've had in the 20th century. We are being lied to. We have ClimateGate. We have the IPC, which is a political organisation, not a scientific organisation, stating various different facts which are homogenised, which are just for there to make the agenda real. They want the agenda. This is what they're trying to get people to give in to by modifying the climate secretly and creating extreme weather events. They can basically wear people down to accept new changes. Next year, 2015, there are 500 new climate environmental laws scheduled to come into play. Think about that. It's all for an agenda. Think about it. Food shortages, is that real or is that engineered? Look here in France. In France, okay, you've got beautiful little tracks like this one disappearing off into the countryside, right? There are thousands upon thousands of these tracks. They're called chemins, right? Now, France is a big country. Imagine alongside every single one of those tracks, fruit and nut trees or appropriate food-bearing plants. Just along every single track, there are thousands of them throughout France. Then you can go on to Italy, Germany, England, all around the world with the appropriate regional food that will grow, fruit and nut trees and food along every single track. There's your famine problem solved instantly for the world. Right, water shortages, it's engineered. I can prove that over 100 different nations have been engaged in weather modification since the Second World War, creating droughts in Africa, creating the famine, creating the food shortages, the monopoly on food supply. Why is it we need chemicals to grow food? We don't. But it's been used for decades and decades, and it's changing the soils, and it's creating a dependency for the emerging sciences like biotech, bioscience, GMOs. Our water supply now is contaminated with these chemicals. Think about that. Why are the farmers spraying gallons upon gallons, thousands of poisonous chemicals onto our land that eventually seep through into the watercourses, and it makes the rivers poisonous and our well water poisonous? Because it's part of an agenda. And we have to wake up, because we are the ones that have to change it. Because clearly all the governments are working together for a one world government system. That's what they desire. That's what they want. They're going to use the United Nations Agenda 21 to bring this in. This is what the chemtrail program's for. It's to modify the climate in secret so that we will accept the climate change laws that will strip away our freedoms. And we have to stop this. 500 new laws coming in next year. It's time to wake up. This is the real agenda, and we must participate, because no one in our governments are going to help us. The lower ones who are compartmentalised don't realise what's really going on, and their loyalties to their career. Not to us, we the people. They're not people. It's time to wake up. We have to change the paradigm, and the only way that will happen is shedding the apathy and participating and doing whatever you can, big or small, to make the difference. And we can do this. Many people are waking up, and we have to, because the United Nations Agenda 21 is awful. It's awful. And all these scientific developments, these huge expenditures on programs like Horizon 2020, the Human Brain Project, Cordis, you know, and many other EU enhanced program, many different programs all around the world. Nanotechnology is set to change the revolution, to change the way we live. And it, unfortunately, for people who love the idea of transhumanism, it's not going to be like the movies, but they will have interfaces with our mind. That's written about in their documents, in the government documents, in the EU. They want a convergence of biodiversity with these horrific things, and chemtrails spray nanoparticles that can be used. You know, come on, it's time to wake up. Come on. We haven't got much time, and we can succeed. We can make a new system, a totally different system. We could do it. We don't need the oligarchy. We don't need this draconian system. We can change it all. We can have freedom to information. We can have direct democracy. We can all make decisions about what happens to our beautiful planet. We can learn to live with nature in harmony, use HHO, use solar power, use all sorts of new technology without being dominated by this dominant minority. Take care, my friends, and do something. Wake up. Let's get this changed. Let's change our paradigm together. Bye for now.